covering a .NET Core. So I have already provided you two sessions. So today, in the .NET Core event session 3, so today's agenda is related to, I will tell you, it is more practical. As I told you previously in the two sessions, we are preparing our base of the .NET Core. So there practically is not so much possible that time. But yes, in the today's session, we will cover more practically part compared to theoretical. So in the today's session, we are explaining first repository design pattern. Also, we will create that routing in .NET Core and their types with demo, dependency injection, their types, constructor and their types, SQL connection establishment, like we will connect our SQL server with the .NET Core application, and linkup and their linkup, and we will use the SSDT tool to connect the SQL server. Also, then we will understand the entity frameworks, their approaches like code first, data first approaches with their demo. We will then proceed with the seeding database in the DB. Then we will proceed with async and await concept, HTTP verbs, REST API, Postman tools. We will discuss some glimpse about network tab that we have in our Chrome window or in Mozilla or any of browser. Then we will discuss about Fiddler tool for API testing. Then we will discuss some complex model creations and how we can achieve it with the Pocogenerator as well, and some online tools. Then we will discuss about the Swagger implementation for API testing, and then the Q&A session. Also, we will discuss some more queries in between when are in between of the concepts. You can ask any of query. Okay. So this is the agenda for today's session. Let's move first with the repository design pattern. Uh, Before proceeding it with, I want to tell you about some design patterns. Design patterns is basically derived from the Gang of Four. There are four peoples who have discovered these patterns. Basically, these patterns come into the scene. There is a concept in our programming is the oops concept, right? So there are problems, so many problems in the oops concept. So for solving them, there is a design pattern come into the scene. So in the design pattern, there are a lot of design patterns, around 28 design patterns that they have discovered. So first we will discuss about the repository design pattern, in which our architecture is created. How we can create our architecture of the application in the .NET Core. Okay. So basically what it is repository design pattern. Previously, we are creating our layers, three layer architecture we are following, right? Physical layer. Physical layer means presentation layer, that is UI layer. And then we are representing our business layer and the database layer. These are the three layers that we are using. Now we have converted these three layers into the N layer of architecture for making our code more clean, easily to maintain and reusable. More loosely coupled approach we will follow. So let's start. Here you can see this is a project. So here we are lack of time. So I have already created this architecture using the repository design pattern. I will tell you the approach. Just create a solution, empty solution. I want to tell you a basic idea of this. Just open the visual. I hope you have already installed the VS 2019 in your systems and the SQL Server. Just give me a minute. System starts hanging. Just give me a minute. happened? I have opened the Visual Studio 2019. Here I am creating a new project. Here I am selecting a empty solution, blank solution. Just say yes and select the location of the project that you want to create. Suppose I am creating on the desktop or D drive. I can select and you can give it name as test. So it's a solution, it's a blank solution. Here you can start like this, creating the applications projects. Here just like selecting this solution file and create on add new project. So first I want to select the ASP.NET Core web application. Here you can select ASP.NET Core web application, select the location, their name, anything, and create. Select the template that you want to create a API application, web application, that I already told you the templates in the previous sessions. Great. My system starts hanging. Okay, so like this you can create your first web application. This is the first layer in which you can put all your APIs here and all your CSS files that I already told you, the structure of the application. This structure I already told you. So this is the web application that you are creating or any of API application. Then for the entities that directly correlate with the database, you can create a new class library here. Simply just right click, add new project and select the class library of the .NET Core and the name that you want to create. Similarly, you can give the naming convention that suppose this is my project name, that is dream part. So here you can give dream part dot entities. Create a new class library for the interfaces. So you can determine the need of your application. Like you have a payment in your application, payment gateway integration. So you can create this layer of architecture. You have repositories that directly relate with the database. You can create the repo class here. This is the service layer in which all the email messages services are there, third party services are there. This is the view model that relate with the presentation layer. So what basically it is, first there is a this one controller class. Suppose I have created this student API controller, and in this layer, this controller is dependent on the interface. This REG repository, this interface, this is a means basically in the controller and the repo class there is a mediator interface in between to handle all the subsequent requestly couplable using the dependency injection. So like this, you can create n layer of architecture using the repository design pattern. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. My system is little slow today. I don't know what happened with this. Okay. So come up with the routing concepts in the .NET Core. It is a very large concept that I can't cover even in 1 hour. So I will give you some glimpse, then you can explore it more. Routing is basically a pattern matching system that monitors the incoming request and figure out what to do with that request. Typically it is a way to serve the user request. Suppose I have a browser and I'm putting some URL like www.google.com. That comes that request to the web server. Then that request, that URL, first what it will happen, it will parse the URL, then find the matching route in the routing engine. If route is found, it will process the request, else it will give HTTP 404 error. This is the basically routing that it will do in the .NET Core. We are not exposing any of file directly, we can hide it. In the routing concept, in the .NET Core concepts, we can define routing in two parts, two ways, using convention based or the attribute based routing. Suppose in the convention based that I told you in the previous session about the middlewares. In the middlewares, we can define a routing like this. If I go in the web application, that's why the previous session is very important. As I told you, before understanding these concepts, you can't understand .NET Core more deep concepts like routing and the other swaggers. So here you can see this is the middleware file. Here I have defined the routing, that is the convention based. So whenever any request come, it will first hit to the middleware, and in the middleware, that is the middleware function configure method, it will go one by one, that is defined in this, and in the final it will check app.useMVC routes.map route name default, that is the default one, template controller action and id is optional, default route is controller auth, my controller name is auth, and the action is create account. In the create auth controller, create account is, sorry, in the auth I have opened the API. In the auth there is a create account. So this is the default routing that I have set in the startup.cs file. This is the convention base. We can define multiple routes in it according to our needs. And the second one is the attribute based routing that you can use and define here like this. Attribute based you can define at the controller level as well, like this, routes API controller. Also you can define at the action level as well. I can show you some more examples that I have put it in the document. This is the deep concepts that you want to dig into it. Here you can see this is the convention based. Here I have defined the routes.map route, name, default, templates, controller name, action, index, ID is optional. Here you can't put anything in the, here you have not put anything in the controller method. Your routing is global as the convention in the startup.cs file. In the attribute based routing, here you have defined the routing at the controller level like this, root, home, or you can also route it at the action level like this, and you can write multiple routings, index, route about, this is the, if you use the .NET Core 3.1 version, it will show like endpoints.map controller route in the convention based. Here this is the type, by this you can define multiple routes in the convention based routing. Sometimes one more question is asked about the routing is ambiguity error. So like suppose I have a controller, this controller, and I have two methods. One is edit and another one is also edit. One is using the int id and another is using int id product. So what will happen if I pass the routing, the local host, and the product, the controller name, and the edit, and id is optional. So if I pass this one, edit only, what will happen? It will hit this one. This question is mostly asked in the interviewers, by the interviewers. So what will happen in this? Here it will start giving the error, which is the ambiguity error, because a, a system starts hanging, means it confused what it will hit, because id is optional, controller is fixed, action is fixed, but the id is optional. So controller is same product and the action name is added, but the id is you are passing is the optional. So it starts hanging, it shows, give you the ambiguity error, ambiguous match exception is thrown. So this is the case that you can try at your end. Here you can define the multiple routes. So this is the complete documentation that you can read if you want to. You can also define the ordering that you want to define in the attribute based routing. Yes, so this is all about the routing. Any doubt in this? Okay, so moving to our next part, that is dependency injection in .NET Core. What is dependency injection? As I told you in our previous sessions, dependency injection is basically, previously we also used in our previous architectures in the .NET frameworks, we are also using the dependency injections to inject our services. But in the previous frameworks, in the .NET previous frameworks, there are, we have to use explicitly, means we have to install the packages like Unity, Ninject. But in the .NET Core, dependency injection is inbuilt. ASP.NET Core supports the dependency injection DI software design patterns, which is a technique for achieving inversion of control. .NET Core provides the default IOC containers by which we did the dependency injection in .NET Core. What is IOC container basically? It is an inversion of control. Basically, what it will do, like suppose I'm giving a basic example, like suppose you are riding your car, okay, and you have to keep patience and you have full dependence dependent on your, so you have to depend on your own, that you have to ride it, you have to take care of everything. But with the dependency injection, if you buy a car, you can hire a cab and then ride it, you can focus on your work, and then everything, their riding and etc depend on that cab driver. So similarly in the .NET Core IOC container, you can just inject the dependency, you can register the dependency into it, then you can start, you can inject the dependency into it, and then you can start your work on your own. So basically what dependency injection will did, here you can see, this is the auth API controller. Here I have created an interface iAuth repository. I'm clicking F12. This is the IAuth repository and their implementation. This is the auth repository. Okay, so here you can see this is my database. Database class is in the startup.cs. Here you can see that in the configure services, I have first for connecting the database. Here we have config.json file. While you are there is a app setting.json file. Okay, you can use this name or you can rename it as the config.json file. So I have rename it and I have passed here my connection string. This is my connection string and I have given some local name to it. I have two databases. Okay, this is my first database and this database is related to some security. Okay, so I have given the server name, their database, their ID and the password. So here are all the configurations that we will use for connecting the database. Then in the startup.cs class, here I have inject it in the, I have defined the config.json file. I have injected the iConfiguration root config, and in the configuration service, I have registered this config file in the IOC container. Add singleton, add transient, add scope. I told you in the previous session their meanings. Add singleton is basically for creating the single object during their life cycle, during the whole life cycle. Add transient means we can create multiple objects. Add scope, we are creating the same object but within the same scope. So here in the whole cycle, whole life cycle, I am creating a single object. So this is the config file. So for the whole life cycle, there is a one connection. Then I've installed the entity framework. Entity framework come into the scene. For the entity framework, I have installed the three packages. First, Microsoft.entityframework core.sql server. You can just right click on manage NuGet package and search for Microsoft.ASP.NetCore.entity framework. Sorry, I have put it wrong one. Microsoft.entity framework. I will remove this one. Here you can see I have all the packages related to the entity framework. So basically for achieving the entity framework, I am installing these three one, the core one you can install, then you can design this one, you can install. For connecting the SQL server, you can install this one, and for the tools, this one. So basically you have to install these packages for connecting it with the entity framework. After installing this, I've created a context file, database context file. So this is the context file. I've used the concept of constructor here. This is my class name. Here I've used the DB context for connecting it with the entity framework. I've created the constructor of that dream part reg context, and there some dependencies options of the entity framework. So like this config, in the config I have all the dependencies, all the configuration files injected into it. So here I have injected this config file. This is the dependency injection, that I am injecting the one file to another and use that dependency easily. Config equals to config, and here I am using the customer, contact and test. Here I have created three classes: customer, contact and test. These classes are available here like this: customer, contact and the test one. So now I'm going to tell you about the entity framework migration, code first approaches and the data first approaches. What basically it will do, code first approach is when you are creating database from the classes. Like in the application, in the source code, I have created a classes: this class, customer class, contact class, test class. Now I want these classes as the database table. So what I have to do, I have already created this one, so I'm just first removing it. Here you can see I am removing it. Close existing connections. Now there is no database of dream, this one, dream part reg. There is no database in this. Now you can see the magic of code first approach. Here you can see in the this context file I have defined all the classes that I want. For migration, there must be a unique key. There is a primary key in it. This one as well. Then I am registering this context file into the startup for IOC container, in the IOC container using SQL Server, and passing my connection string, this one that I am going to use, and the migration assembly as dream part. Dream part is my project name, this one. Now I have achieved all these things. Now I'm going to tools, nugget package, and one more thing I will do first. I am removing this migration folder. Okay. Now I'm going to tools, nugget package manager console. For achieving the migration, now here you can see I don't have any database. Here I have put the our context class into the IOC container. Now I have opened the package manager console. Now what I am doing here, I am doing the code first approach, entity framework code first approach, in which I have created the class. I have created the class, and by the code first approach, I am creating the database and creating the tables based on that class. Here you can see we don't have any database that is created, that is defined in the config.json. So now you can see the magic of the code first approach. So these are the commands: add migration name, like suppose I'm giving initial migration, you can give any name. Minus context means you can define, if you have one context file, you can directly hit this command without defining this context file. But if you have multiple context files, because as in my code I have multiple context files, so I'm defining the context file separately. So here this is my context file. Okay, and I'm just enter it. Here you can see the migration is done, and it has created a migration folder. Previously I have removed this migration folder, right? So it has created the migration folder, but it has not created any database yet. Here you can see it. By this command it will only create the schema into the source code, but after running this command, update database minus context and our file name, hit enter. Here you can see, now I'm just refreshing my database. Here you can see a new database is created with the tables. So this is the code first approach, in which you can create the database by creating the class and the tables. If you want to run more, like suppose in the context file, where is my context file? In the context file, in the startup.cs, in the reg context, I've added second class. I'm naming it, suppose, demo. Okay. And I'm creating the class. After UID, ID, string, demo name. I have two properties. Okay. Now I want to generate this class as well. I have just added this class in this. Okay, everything is created. Now I am going to package manager console. Again, just clicking the add migration. Add the second name. You can write any another name. Second migration, migration name. Migration name is this one. Context file name. Hit enter. It has created the schema. Now I'm updating the database. Minus context and the context file name. Hit enter. It's slow because my system is hanging. Yeah, it's created. So I'm just refreshing my database here. Refresh. So here you can see Now another table is created with all the required columns that I have put it the ID and the demo name. So by this is the code first approach. Any doubt in it? Okay. So this is the code first approach in the entity framework. Now, another thing is if you have table, if you have created already you have schema and you have already created the table. Suppose I'm creating table now here and ID, unique identifier, make it primary key and the name, varchar 50, two columns. And the name of this table is training. Hit OK. The new table is created in the database. Now I want to match this table. Okay, I want to match this table into here. So we will use the data first approach. Previously I told you about the code first approach in which we are creating the database from the classes. Now we are creating the classes, tables from the tables. So again click on tools, make package, package manager console. You can clear screen or you can click here. So I have put it the command in the doc. This is the command. In this command, you can see there, this is my server name. Okay, this is my database name. This is my user ID and the password that you can write. So my password is, my local system password is this one. Hit enter. Okay, so here you can see now you have created a training class. So by the tables, you have created the class that is injected into here. So this is all about code first approach and the data first approach in the entity framework. Any doubt in it? Okay. So I'm moving. Constructors. Constructors, I hope all you know. So I will just give you a glimpse of constructors. So this is a special method of the class that is automatically invoked when an instance of the class is created. That is a constructor. So suppose I have a class name is test. So our constructor name is also the test. The name is same. Main use of constructor is to initialize the private fields of the class while creating an instance of the class. When you have not created a constructor in the class, the compiler will automatically create a default constructor. Class can have any number of constructors. Constructor does not have any return type, not even void. Constructors are basically 5 types: default, parameterized, static, private, and the copy one. Default, that will automatically create when a class is created. So here you can see what happened if we don't have the constructors and if we have constructors. These are the two comparisons. This is the class program file. In the class program, here is the static void main function and the main function in the here in the right side. So here there is a car class, and I'm creating the instance of the car class. And in the car class, there are three properties: model, color, and the year. I'm passing these properties, their values, and again I'm creating another object of this car class, and I'm passing these properties to this, and I'm printing the console.writeLine. Therefore, dot model first property and the second instance first property. What happened when constructor come into the scene? So here you can see I'm creating the constructor car for equals to new car and passing the property directly into it using the parameterized constructor. So here also I am creating the open property, OP1 property, and passing the properties into it. So how here you can see the code is very less with this constructor, and how it initialize the values and affect our code. So this is a just glimpse of constructor. I will cover it more in the OOPS concept when we will discuss about OOPS concept in the deep. So SQL connection establishment, I told you how you can just edit the connection string in the app.setting.json, or you can rename it. Then in the startup.cs file, you can add this connection string into the, you can register it into the IOC container as a singleton. One more thing, we have a tool, SSDT. This is the SQL Server Data Tool. Is a tool set which provides an environment for users to carry out database design. So suppose, here you can see, this is our project. And I want all the scripts, all these tables in our database project here as a complete package. How we will achieve this? So basically, just click on add. You can achieve this with the SSDT. You can add this, add a new project, search for the SQL Server database project, click on next. It will add the project. After that, you have tables, you have stored procedures in it. So just right click on import and the database. There will be an option of database. Okay, it's not showing because I have already created, so I'm just rename it and remove it. Add new project, adding the SQL Server database project. Click on next, name that I have copied, create. So a new SQL project is added. Just right click on import, select the database. If you don't have the database configured, select the data connection, click on browse, enter your connection string. So I have entered, yeah, this one is my server name. I'm adding it here. Here you can see this is my database. I'm connecting it and start. Now it will import of database schema. It will import only the database schema. So here you can see, just finish. All our tables are here. Okay. If something new table introduced here, like I am adding one more table, ID, unique identifier, make a primary key. Add a new column, name, writer, 50, save, name it as SSDT table. Okay, hit OK. Now I have this table as well, but not here. So what I will do, I will click again, click on schema compare, because this is my target location, C drive. So I'm click on this arrow icon and put this target location here, and I'm selecting this source location. Source location is the database location. So this is my database connection. This is my database, connect. Click OK. Then it will show all the differences from the database and our local SQL. I'm comparing it. So here you can see I have one new table in the comparison. So I will select this one and click on add. Okay. Now click on update. Are you sure you want to update the target? Click on yes. Click on yes. So it will add this table here as well. It will take some time. Not added. Don't save. Okay, I'm checking here. Just refresh it. Table is not added. It is not added. Select source, the database, string part, connect. Okay. Compare. It takes some time to compare it. So similar way, like yes, it is not added. So I'm selecting it and adding it. It shows the progress here. Once it is done, I don't know why it is not added. So by this way you can add. I don't know what happened this time. SSDT table. Okay, anyways, I will show you another time. There might be some changes in it. Okay, so moving to our next part. Any doubt, guys? Okay. So this is the entity framework. I have already told you about the code first approach, database first approach. Now I will tell you about some database seeding. How we can do the database seeding. Here you can see in this application, first I'm closing all the documents. This one. Database seeding is basically like when we run our application and I want to inject some important data, like suppose username, password, and some sticky tables, some standard tables into the database when the application run. So I want to seed some data into the database by using the seeding technique. How we can achieve? Here I have created for the seeding content, I have created this. Suppose this is my order class, okay, and this is my order context class. I have put the order class here, similar way that I told you, and this is my order context seed. I have created the function seed async function. I am using the async await technique, and I am in the seed context. If data is not available, it will add the data in it. This is the function that will call, and it will add the data into the order table. Then I am injecting this file into the startup.cs file. Here you can see this one, like this way, and I am running. First I am creating this table. So for this I have to use the code first approach, or you can use directly, you can create this table into the database. So I know about the code first approach, so I will use that one. Add migration, third, and I am here now using the context file name is order context minus context, and the context file name, click on add. So currently here you can see there is no order table. Now update the database, minus context, hit enter. Okay, so now you can see there is a orders table as well. If I click select top 1000, okay, okay, my Visual Studio key has expired. Okay, this table has all the columns. I can show you here as well. Refresh. order table, view data. Currently you can see in the order table there is no data. Now I am running this application. Okay. Whenever the application start, it will hit first time because I have stopped the application. First it will hit the main program.cs file. Here I have added the create and see database file. This is my function that starts running. Yeah, it is done. Now I can see the data in it. I'm refreshing it. Here you can see now I have two data because I have set it two data. So this is all about how we can do setting into the database, our important data directly to the database. Yes. So now about the async and await. We have two concepts, asynchronization and the synchronization. Synchronization is basically a parallel execution. Suppose I want to do some task, I want to hit the application, then do some registration, and in the registration there is also some more tasks. It will send the mail. It will send the mail to the registered user, okay, and do some more stuffs. Like similar in this example, here I have cup of tea, and the eggs, and the bacon, the toast, and the juice. So all task is running in a parallel way. So synchronization is basically we cannot do second task once the first task is finished. We have to finish the first task before moving to the second task. So this is the synchronization. What asynchronization tell? Asynchronization tells that don't block, await instead, means before finishing our first task, move to the second task if it is not dependent on the first task. That means we can send mail later before we can do registration and pass the message to the UI at the presentation level that your registration is succeed. It is not dependent. So in the code here you can see I have created almost all the functions asynchronously. Here you can see async and the wait. So it will work as a background thread if the task is not dependent to the other. You can make the method as async and await. You cannot do await without the async method. You have to must put the async for using the await keyword. So this is just a glimpse about async and await. HTTP verbs, you know all about that we have mainly used. We are using the for get, post, put, and delete. Get is for retrieving the resources, post for inserting the resources into the database, put for updating the resources. Mostly in the interviews, mm, the interviewers ask about what is the difference between post and put. So basically both we can use, but the basic difference is post is used for inserting the database, put is used for updating the database, and delete for deleting the database. So we can use HTTP GET, HTTP POST. Yeah. So these are the some success code, HTTP codes. Like if comes 200, okay, that means it is a success one. 201, that is created successfully, resource created successfully. 202, that means it is accepted. 204, the request was successful but there is no content, means while we are doing the delete operations there is no content. These are the some error codes like 400 bad requests. If you send an incorrect JSON document is missing, if the syntax or content is incorrect. 401 is unauthorized user, 403 for forbidden, 404 is not found, 405 is method not allowed, 415 is unsupported media type, 500 is internal server error, 503 is service unavailable, 504 is gateway timeout. So these are the some HTTP codes and the verbs. I'm moving next. The REST APIs. Here you can see the REST APIs is inbuilt functionality, means this is the merge of the REST APIs. We cannot in the .NET Core. This is a merge in the .NET Core automatically. The REST APIs. So in the code here you can see I've created the REST APIs. This one. These are the some examples. Auth API controller for saving the student. I've used the verb HTTP post. This is my model, and in the try catch I'm using some operations for achieving this. Like it will give a response as a result, and if the result is success then it will move to the go to implementation. You can see the logic is here in the repository class. So like this you can create the your REST APIs. Moving to next. Postman Tool, I hope you all know about the Postman Tool for testing the APIs. Like suppose I have this Postman Tool. You can install and add in your Chrome. Here you can put the this is my Postman. Here you can select the HTTP verb that you want, like suppose get, post, put, delete, anything. Like I'm selecting the get one, and this is the URL. You can just run your application, then put the URL. This is my URL. First I'm hitting our API, and this is my controller name. Okay, this is my controller API name, and you can pass the action name, get student, and you can send the request. If you have post request, you can select the post one and change the URL according to it. Select the body and then the row data and the JSON structure that you will pass the JSON structure based on the model. This one. Okay. You can create the JSON structure online as well. Convert C# to JSON. In the first link. Okay. So here suppose this is my model. I'm selecting it and paste it. Convert to JSON. Here you can see now I have JSON structure. So you can put the JSON structure here and pass the value. It will reduce most of your time. So by this you can use your Postman tool. Moving to next. Guys, this meeting ended in a 1 minute, so you have to connect it again. About the network console, you can also test your APIs. Like suppose I'm hitting this one, this URL. Okay, click on F12 or just inspect element. Click on network tab. Okay, again hit this URL. You can see how many resources or how many APIs are available here. That is going to hit during this one, this one. So here you can also see in the header join about the network tab. So you can F12 it and click on network tab and hit the URL. So you will see all the APIs, all the resources that are going to use in this. You can see, and also you can check the request URL, the response, their status code, everything, their cache control, the response headers, everything, and the response file, what response comes in the API. You can see more better. So this is just a glimpse about dot network tab where you can test your APIs as well. Apart from, you can check your APIs and the request and response apart from Postman tool. Also, I'm moving to next slide. Fiddler tool. You can also use the Fiddler tool. So you can install your Fiddler tool, as I have already installed. Just start. No, click on remove all. So here you can see all the HTTP requests comes from the browser. So this is my request, this is my Fiddler, and I'm just hitting this one. Here you can see these are the files that are used. You can see all the statics, all the logs, everything in it. You can also hit from there as well, inspector as well, filters, composers. You can compose like Postman, you can compose here and send the request. So by this Fiddler tool you can also test your APIs. Now the most important part, how you can create a complex models in your application. Suppose I have model into model. That means for the REST APIs, I am closing this one. Here I have created an example for complex model. Suppose I have a company, okay, and the company have list of employees. There is a company name, address, and the list of employees. So I'm putting list of employees into it, and in the employees there is an employee ID, employee name, employee friend details, that is a list type. Again there is a list type, employee previous company detail, and some more employee contact detail. So here you can see there is a model into model. In the employee friend detail there is some details, employee previous company. These are the details. You can make it more complex. You can add more models into it. So these are the models. These are the complex models that you can create model under model for your REST APIs. Also, I can give you one more example. Suppose I have a very complex JSON structure. Okay. Um, like this. Okay. This is my JSON structure. I'm just copying it. Paste it. Okay. Here you can see I have problems, list of problems. In the list of problems, I have diabetes, list of diabetes. Medications, under the diabetes, I have list of medications. Under the medications, I have list of medication classes. Under the medication classes, I have list of classes name, class name. And under the class name, I have list of associated drugs. So here you can see this is a very complex model. This brackets means list. This bracket means only a model. This is a list bracket. This is a simple object model. So what you can do, you can simply create your, by understanding this complex JSON structure and create the models. You have to create the models, these classes. First, you have to understand this complex JSON structure. But a short way also available. You can just select this one. But I would recommend that don't use this tool. Create with your own. Convert JSON to C#. Just click it. Enter the JSON structure. Okay. Convert. Here you can see it has created all the classes of this JSON structure. Okay. So by this way, you can convert your JSON structure to directly C# classes or directly C# classes to JSON structure. Any doubt, guys? Okay. Moving to our next part. Pocogenerator tool. One more problem come into the scene. Like suppose I have uh, this order class, order table, and it has around 10 to 12 columns. In most of the tables in the large application, we have 50 columns as well. So it is difficult to create and copy one column and create the class. So there is a Pocogenerator tool. You can directly download this tool from the site. I have given the link in the doc. You can just select Pocogenerator and download. And this is the first link you can download from where? This one. So I have already downloaded. This is the exe file. I'm opening it, connecting my server name with my server name. This is my server name. test connection, succeed. I have connected the database and it gives all our tables here. So just click, this is the order table, it gives you a class. You can just copy it and create class here and paste the complete model. अच्छा लगा ये? कितना easy है? So by this way you can create models from the tables by easily way. Any doubt, guys? Okay. Now comes to our final topic, Swagger. Swagger is basically, I don't know you all guys know about the Swagger or not. Swagger is basically a API documentation. You can create a management of your APIs. You can also hit your APIs from this, like the similar way the Postman did. It gives you a management, you can hit your APIs. It will give you also the documentation of your APIs. For this, in your application, you have to first install the dependency, that is the package swashbuckle.asp.NetCore. First, you have to install this one and then register and use into the pipeline, in the middleware pipeline, the Swagger. So here you can see I have registered their dependency services.add Swagger, and I have given their title name at event API. Also, I have injected it into our middleware, this one. So when I run my application, I'm removing the debug points and continue it. So our local host name is 5000. Okay, so this is the default URL. Only the port is different, that the default that .NET Core runs. So the name that I've given, Event API version 1, all the APIs here, which is available in the auth API. So in the auth API, you have to put the attribute routing for accessing the Swagger. So in the student API, I have not put the routing. So that's why it is not available. In the auth API, I have used this route. That's why it is available in the Swagger documentation. So here you can see this is the save student and the get student. So in the Swagger, there are two APIs available as a documented manner. So if I hit, I can show you the example of get one. I can click get one, try it out, and I can put the debug point. Here I have put it the debug point. I'm executing it. So it hits our API. So this is also the way you can test your API in a documented manner. This is the Swagger. So any doubt, guys, in this? We are almost running our time. So this is the end of our session. So on the upcoming session on the 7th September, we will do more advanced topic in the .NET Core. that is health checks in .NET Core, set up linkup with .NET Core using linkpad for testing, exception handling in the .NET Core at controller level and the global level, logging in .NET Core, logging in the database with full stack trace, bundling and minification, course, tag helpers, filters, identity, role-based authorization, claim-based, identity server that is single sign-on in .NET Core, security in ASP.NET Core, and we will start doing writing test cases in .NET Core using XUnit. So this is our upcoming topics of our .NET Core session. Any questions?